You're listening to a podcast from the Today programme on BBC Radio 4.
Some rather cheering new research has found that the Specialist Family Drug and Alcohol Court is having a really sustained effect on troubled families. The problem-solving court helps parents beat their alcohol or their drug addiction so that their children can be safely returned to them. It was set up nearly 9 years ago. It's been very widely praised, but it is still very small scale compared with the growing number of care cases, which are more than doubled in a decade, as Sancha Berg reports.
Wow. When Claire, not her real name, became pregnant, she'd been addicted to heroin and crack for 17 years. She knew her baby could be taken into care at birth. She gave up drugs and she stayed off them. She kept her daughter, who's now 2.5. She says it's thanks to the Family Drug and Alcohol Court, or FDAC.
The day I had my daughter, proceedings were started and I was in the family court 2 days later. And I remember when I walked into the court, I was really scared. I had all these professionals sitting in a room who I was very scared of and didn't think that they'd understand me or get me. And Judge Crichton said to me, he said, if I used FDAC, I would come out of it a better person. And that just stuck in my head. And I decided to work with FDAC, sign up to FDAC, and to take everything out of it that was offered to me.
How did the court work?
So I would go into the court every 2 weeks. I would see my key worker, I would see the judge, and you can speak with the judge direct, and you can be honest with the judge. And the judges were really good because they would ask you how they can help you better, what's going on for you, where you're at in terms of your housing, have you got housing sorted, can they support you a little bit better?
The court was set up in London in 2008. 5 years ago, an independent evaluation compared it with conventional family proceedings. More families in FDAC were able to give up drugs and alcohol. More parents got their children back. I reported on the findings then. Some were sceptical, asking how well these troubled families would do once the court's original support disappeared. This new study traced those original parents. Mary Ryan is one of its authors.
We found that more FDAC mothers were able to stay off drugs and alcohol than in the comparison sample, and that was a significant difference, so that is statistically significant. We also found that fewer FDAC families had any of a range of problems over that period of time, and again that was statistically significantly different. And so it shows that FDAC does have a lasting effect.
She underlines statistically significant because the numbers are small. The FDAC has been extended to 12 more areas of England, but will still only deal with 250 care cases a year, compared with nearly 15,000 care cases in the country. The most senior judge in the family court has said this research shows FDAC really works for parents, for children, and it saves public money. He said it should be scaled up. But government funding's been limited and the central unit's grant runs out in March. For Claire, FDAC changed her life.
I know so many that have gone through the normal family courts and I get quite sad about it. I see a lot of mums that could be helped a lot better how I was helped, and the kids are being removed and that's it. Once they're gone, maybe they see that if they're not in adoption, if they're in foster placement, they see them for an hour a week.
Did that motivate you when you got pregnant yourself to say, I am not doing this?
Yeah, it was a big motivation fact. I didn't want to be another statistic.
Well, that report was from Sancha Berg, and Nicholas Crichton, the judge you heard referred to in the report, founder of the Family Drug and Alcohol Courts, is here. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And they work.
They definitely work.
And yet, the way that report ended, they work but are threatened by a lack of funding. Not existentially threatened, but the amount of work that they can take on is threatened. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say. Government funded us for the first 4 years and then said, if the pilot has been proved to work, you have to find your own funding. Local authorities have funded us since then, but they are finding their budgets constantly slashed and are finding it more and more difficult to support us. We have gone out to many charitable foundations seeking funding to continue going, but they say, we really believe in what you're doing, but this is core government business, and we should not be funding something that the government should be doing.
And do you agree with them?
I do.
And if that is the case, how short-sighted is it for the government, or indeed the local authorities, to reduce funding?
Well, we have to accept that we are in a period of austerity, but I still think it is short-sighted. We have produced the figures that show not only that it works, but it saves significant sums of money further downstream.
Really, there is proper evidence, is there, that if these courts are used more, and the amount of money that is spent on them, that the savings in the end will be bigger than the amount spent in the first place?
Oh, very much so. But the trouble is the savings are not going to be made this year. They'll be made next year and the year after. And that's the problem. The emotional cost to these parents, to these children, to these families, the financial cost to the taxpayer of people continuing to lead these lives, continuing to have children who have to be removed in order to protect them, those costs are immense. And if we don't do something about the core problem at the heart of why they keep coming back into care proceedings, it will go on being an immense cost to the taxpayer. But it's not just about money, it's about fairness to these families. It's about fairness to these children. And I think we tick all the boxes.
And boxes that Theresa May is keen to tick. That's what she says, isn't it? So,
yes.
I mean, what would your message be to her then?
I think somehow government has to find the funding to keep this going. We have shown that it works. We have shown that these families sustain, by and large, their improvements in getting their lives back together. I saw a psychiatric report a few years ago where a mother who had had a child removed said that every time she has a child removed, the only way she could deal with the pain of the loss was to get pregnant again as quickly as possible. Well, that was inevitably going to be another child for the care system. Removing the fourth, fifth, sixth child from the same mother is standard business in family court. I once had to remove the 14th. I know judges who have removed the 15th. And there was a case in the press earlier this year where a mother had her 17th child removed. That is a failing system.
Nicholas Crichton, Judge Nicholas Crichton, thank you very much.
You can listen to more free content from the Today programme by going to www.bbc.co.uk/today.